There are mornings when we wake, open our eyes to the same familiar ceiling, hear the clock still keeping time, and yet a vague emptiness rises inside. Everything appears unchanged. Work is waiting. Responsibilities pile up. Life keeps turning. But what exhausts us is not that the burden is too heavy. It's that the heart has not found a place to rest. That feeling is like being lost in a foggy forest. Your legs still move, but you can't see the way out. The body runs like a machine while the soul has wandered off somewhere. Weariness does not come from the outside. It comes from the formless emptiness within. When you don't know what you're living for, each day stretches on like a meaningless loop. Someone once shared, "I'm not tired because I work all day. I'm tired because I'm always afraid of losing. Afraid of losing a job, a status, a loved one, a future." That fear is like an underground current, running without end beneath the earth, slowly draining your life force. Even while sitting still, the heart feels as if it bears a stone. The body may rest, but the mind is never at ease. Imagine a dark room with crickets chirping all through the night. It's not violent, only small, yet haunting enough to rob you of sleep. The worries within us are the same, never exploding, just drizzling on and on, eroding us day by day. And by the time we are spent, we realize the greatest fatigue does not come from what we do, but from the ignorance of the heart. The modern world offers every convenience: smartphones, fast transport, beautiful clothes. But the more conveniences we have, the lonelier we seem to become. On the surface, everything looks abundant, yet inside we are like a small boat on an endless ocean, not knowing where the shore is. The Buddha once reminded us, if the mind is not at peace, the body can hardly be well. In the past, farmers labored all day and still slept soundly at night because their minds were not entangled in endless comparisons. As for us, even with a soft bed and a brightly lit home, we toss within a vortex of pressure and comparison. My dear friend, sometimes it is not the body that is most exhausted, but the cracked heart. It is like a jar with a broken base. No matter how much water you pour in, it never fills. When we do not know what we truly need, we never feel enough. And yet, if we simply stop, close our eyes, and take one deep breath, we will see, as long as we are breathing, there is still a chance. The breath is a fragile thread that connects body and mind. In that quiet peace appears it has never left us. We only forgot the way home. There is an ancient teaching that says, the human mind is like a silvered mirror. When it is clear, it reflects the whole sky and light. But when it is covered with dust, we see only dimness, even though the sun still shines. People are not exhausted because life is too hard, but because the mirror of the heart is veiled by layers of worry, anger, comparison, and rivalry. Think of an ordinary day. The moment we open our eyes, we are pulled away by messages, emails, and urgent tasks. Before the inner mirror has a chance to clear, another layer of tension settles on it. Out on the street, we collect more dust from measuring glances and invisible races. At night, instead of resting, we hurry to fill the void with a glowing screen or a fleeting thrill. Day after day, the mirror of the mind grows dustier until we forget what we truly look like. The Buddha said, "If the mind is still, happiness follows like a shadow that never leaves the body." But the modern mind is rarely still. It is like a mirror placed in a marketplace, constantly collecting dust and scratches. We look into it and find only a distorted face, and we mistake that for our true nature. A woman once confided her job was not too heavy. Her family was quite comfortable. yet she always felt exhausted. When asked why, she only shook her head. I always regret what has passed and fear what has not yet come. So I have never lived in the present. Her words reminded me of a mirror clouded with breath. The scene is still there, but we see only a blur, never clarity. And yet, wondrously, a mirror never loses its power to reflect. Even when coated with dust, a light wipe brings back the brightness. So it is with our mind. If we simply stop, if we take one conscious breath, the dust of worry is already brushed away in part. Then we see again, peace was never gone. It was only hidden. Try placing a hand over your chest. Breathe deeply and look within, as if gazing into a clear mirror. You will see that fatigue does not lie in the outer world, but in the layers of dust we have allowed to settle. When we wipe them away, our true face returns peaceful, luminous, and unforced. There is a kind of weariness that does not come from work or trial, but from secret fears that lurk within. It is not noisy, not explosive, only persistent, like drops of water falling all night on a tiled roof, enough to keep you from sleeping, enough to crack the soul little by little. We fear losing the job. We have the position we have labored for, the love we cherish, the youth that fades. These fears are like a negative current running underground. We cannot see it, but it shakes every step and makes everything inside us tremble. Someone once confessed, "What tires me is not what I do, but what I fear will happen." Indeed, the body can work all day, yet one tiny worry can bore a hole through the mind, like an old wooden door that creaks in the wind, never slamming shut, but never truly at rest. When fear dwells in the heart, even a moment of sitting still is not real rest. You sip a cup of tea and taste more bitterness than sweetness, not because the tea is poor, but because the mind is saturated with scenarios that have never occurred. Fear is often not reality, but a shadow enlarged by imagination. Yet that shadow can grow large enough to eclipse the light of peace. The Buddha taught suffering does not arise from events themselves, but from the way the mind reacts to them. Thus, fear does not truly live out there in the world. It arises when we project dark visions onto ourselves. It is like a child sitting in a dark room imagining a monster in the corner. In truth, it is only a quiet coat hanging there, but in the child's mind, it becomes a terrifying shape. My friend, to overcome fear is not to fight it, but to look straight at it. When we dare to light a small lamp in the night, darkness vanishes at once. In the same way, when we dare to name our worries, they lose much of their power. Fear grows only in the darkness of avoidance. When illuminated by mindfulness, it is merely a thin cloud passing by. Place your hand on your heart and ask, "What am I afraid of?" You may be surprised to find that most fears never come true. And even when a few do, you are still here, still breathing, still capable of rising. That alone proves you are stronger than you think. We live in an era where every convenience lies within reach. With a single tap, we can call a ride order, a meal, connect with friends across the globe. Our houses glow with light. Our rooms hold modern devices. Yet strangely, the fuller the outside becomes, the emptier the inside can feel. It is like a house made of glass. From the outside, it glitters beneath the city lights. But inside, a light touch reveals spreading cracks. We wrap ourselves in a radiant exterior, yet when night falls, loneliness shines straight into the soul. In the old days, farmers toiled under the sun hands, calloused supper plain with simple greens. Yet their hearts were gentle as a small oil lamp, casting warm light enough to chase away the dark. Today, our meals are lavish, and our lights are bright, and yet our hearts feel dim and unsteady. Look at a young city dweller. The first act upon waking is to take up the phone. Unanswered messages, stacked tasks, notifications without end. A heart not yet fully awake is weighed down like a backpack stuffed with unsorted papers. On the street, they jostle within the crowd. Glances prick like tiny needles, not enough to wound at once, but enough to leave countless scratches within. At night, instead of resting, they try to fill the emptiness with brief diversions, loud music, a bitter drink, a film forgotten as soon as it ends. Everything is like a sweet that melts too quickly, leaving only a hollow aftertaste. Day by day, they become a machine that runs while slowly draining its power. The Buddha reminded us, body and mind always go together. The body may live amid the city's clamor, but if the mind is neglected, that very bustle becomes a burden, like an instrument left untuned. Though the frame is intact, the sound that comes out is harsh. My dear friend, what our age lacks most is not material things, but spaces of quiet for the soul. We think that more downtime will tire us less, but even on the sofa, the mind can churn. Unfinished plans, the fear of falling behind, the haunting sense of a foggy future, these pull us away from the present and leave the heart with no room to breathe. One summer afternoon, I passed a rice field at harvest time. The wind blew, and each heavy head of grain bowed in serene composure. I realized weight does not break the rice, it makes it humble. People are the same when we learn to bow the heart, to gently lower the ego responsibilities, stop feeling like burdens, and become the shape of our growth. In life, many people are exhausted, not because there is too much work, but because they are trying to build too lofty an image of themselves. Like a skinny branch that keeps lifting its head against the storm, it eventually snaps. Meanwhile, the slender bamboo bends with the wind, and after the storm, it still stands. Sometimes real strength is not in bracing hard, but in being flexible and gentle, so we do not break ourselves. The humble person is like a small stream winding through a mountain pass. It is not noisy and does not show off, yet its water gradually wears smooth the hardest stone and nourishes an entire green forest. In contrast, torrents that rage as if mighty soon disappear, leaving only mud behind. The Buddha taught, a small drop falling continuously can pierce rock, how much more the mind that is patient and knows how to soften. When we learn gentleness and humility, half the burden lifts. For pressure often does not come from the outside. Most of it arises from an oversized ego that makes us shoulder what we don't need to carry. My friend, think about it. How many times have we felt worn out simply because we didn't want anyone to think we were weak? How many times have we tensed up just to prove we were stronger than others? But like those ripened rice stalks, true maturity lies not in stiffly standing tall. It lies in the ability to bow, to let go lightly, so we do not shatter in the gale. From that lesson, we see another truth. The habits of comparison and competition are the invisible shackles that bind the soul. To go deeper, we must see that our value is not weighed on a scale against anyone else's. It is found in how fully we live our own path. In the journey of life, there is a chain heavier than hard labor, the habit of comparing and competing. We see someone with a new car and our chest tightens. A colleague is praised and our heart grows uneasy. Another's success makes us feel small. Thus, the heart is stretched like a string pulled too tight, always on the verge of snapping. Picture an endless marathon. Each runner has no shared finish line, yet keeps glancing left and right to check if they are behind. Because they are busy comparing, they forget the road, before them is their own. Forgetting this, they grow exhausted before they have reached anywhere at all. The Buddha taught, no one is truly like anyone else. Like lotuses and chrysanthemums, each has its own fragrance and color. There is no need to compete to prove worth, yet people often become like shallow jars, forever peeking into others' vessels to see who has more water instead of quietly pouring more into their own. Once a student asked a Zen master, "Why am I always miserable when I compare myself to others?" The master smiled and pointed out the window. "Look there. The wide river flows to the sea, but the small mountain brook also has its own rhythm. If the brook keeps comparing itself to the river, it will suffer forever and forget that thanks to the brook, the hillside forest stays green." Those words were like a cool breeze blowing over a dry hill, waking one from a fevered dream. My dear friend, everyone has their own season. Some bloom early like the first apricot blossoms of spring. Others ripen late like persimmons in autumn. Early or late, all have value. Forcing yourself to follow another's tempo is like asking winter to bloom with lotuses. It only breeds more suffering. Imagine a single instrument in a grand orchestra. Not everyone is a resounding violin. Some are but a simple bamboo flute. Yet without that flute, the music would be less complete. Likewise, your value does not lie in being better than anyone. It lies in daring to live fully with your own melody. When we release comparison, the heart grows light like a kite, freed from the hand, rising naturally with the wind unbound. When we know we need not chase any measuring stick, we finally step onto our own road. And only after we abandon comparison can we learn to cherish what is already here. In the next leg, we will explore the strength of sufficiency and gratitude like a sweet spring, soothing a parched heart. There is a simple truth few people see. Happiness does not reside in what we hold, but in how we look at what we have. One who knows enough is like a thirsty traveler who finds a fresh well in the desert. Every sip is precious, every drop a grace. One who does not know enough is like someone drinking seawater. The more they drink, the thirstier and more depleted they become. Today's society makes us believe that only by climbing another rung, buying another thing, or hearing another compliment will we be whole. But in truth, that is only a shadow moving on a wall. The more you chase, the farther it recedes. In running after what is not yet, we abandon the simple joy already in our hands. Someone once said that on a pilgrimage, he met an old man sitting under the eaves of a thatched hut, eating nothing more than boiled greens and a thin soup. Yet he smiled gently, his eyes bright, like an oil lamp in a windy night, warm enough for anyone near to feel its heat. In that moment, the traveler understood wealth does not come from a storehouse of gold, but from a heart content with the present. The Buddha taught one who knows enough is rich. One who is grateful is at peace. Gratitude is the key that opens enduring peace. When we silently thank our feet for carrying us, our eyes for seeing the sky, and our breath for moving in and out, then even the smallest things become priceless gifts. Try sitting down and writing 3 things you are grateful for today. Perhaps a friend's laughter, a clear morning, or simply a cup of tea still warm in your hands. As you write, your heart will settle like a river under the moon, smooth and calm, reflecting a sky of serenity. My friend, people are not weary merely from lack, but because they forget to see what they already have, like a traveler in the woods who keeps looking up for the sun and misses the wildflowers blooming at their feet. Happiness is not a destination. It is the pause to notice the path. Knowing enough and practicing gratitude may not make us instantly wealthy, but they surely ease the heart's hunger. They are like a small backyard garden. Perhaps no rare plants grow there, but each morning, just to hear birdsong and see dew sparkle on the leaves is to feel richly blessed. When the heart has learned sufficiency and gratitude, we gain the courage for a greater lesson, the art of letting go. Only when we dare to set burdens down does the road ahead open wide like the sky after rain. Letting go does not mean losing it, is an art of living a courage that brings us back to freedom. Imagine carrying on your back a backpack filled with rocks. At first, you believe you have the strength to walk far, but the longer you go, the heavier it becomes. Only when you set the pack down do you realize the path itself was never that long. It was the burden that made it so hard. That is what letting go means, not throwing away everything, but choosing what is truly necessary to keep. There is a story from a monastery about a young monk who carried water across a mountain. Each trip, he would add stones to his buckets, thinking it would train his strength. But one day, he collapsed on the path. His master, passing by, simply said, "Strength does not come from piling on burdens, but from knowing when to put them down." The words were simple, but like a bolt of lightning across the night sky, they awakened him from delusion. Sometimes letting go means daring to forgive. When we hold on to resentment, we are like someone drinking poison and hoping the other person suffers. Only when we release it does our heart feel light, like a bird freed from a narrow cage, soaring again into the vast sky. The Buddha once taught, "There is no burden heavier than clinging." What we call impossible to let go is often just the habit of grasping. We cling to the past like someone clutching a rotted boat, too afraid to release and cross to the far shore. Yet once we let go, we discover the river was never that wide and the opposite bank never that far. My friend, look within. Is there something you've held on to for too long? Perhaps a wound, a memory, a careless word. They are like pebbles stuck in your shoe, making every step painful. Yet simply by taking the shoe off and shaking them out, the journey becomes light again. Letting go does not impoverish us. It creates space for peace to enter. Like a long, uncleaned room, only when the dust is swept out can sunlight pour through the window. Once we learn how to let go, we can begin to live true to ourselves. And that leads to the next chapter, daring to remove every mask and appear as we are clear, simple, and genuine, like a drop of dew in the morning sun. Perhaps one of the deepest reasons why people feel exhausted is because they live within shells that are not truly theirs. We smile when we want to cry, nod when we wish to refuse, agree while our heart protests. Over time, we become actors on our own life stage, forgetting which face is real. In society, everyone wears masks: the mask of success, the mask of cheerfulness, the mask of strength. But the more masks we wear, the further we stray from our true selves. Like a ceramic vase covered with too many coats of paint, bright on the outside, but cracked within. Sometimes we are not weary because life is too hard, but because we have never truly been ourselves. Someone once said, "I'm not tired because of work, but because every day I have to pretend to be okay." That truth pierces deep. The greatest exhaustion is not physical, but the heart imprisoned behind false layers. Only when we dare to take off the masks to show up with our clumsiness do we feel free. The Buddha taught truth is the most solid refuge. When we are honest with ourselves, we no longer wander searching for anchors outside. To live truthfully is like a dewdrop sparkling in sunlight, tiny yet clear, needing no embellishment. And its simplicity is what makes it most beautiful. Try sitting still, once asking yourself, "What do I truly want?" what makes me peaceful? The answer may be far different from the image you've tried to build for others. But the moment you realize it, you begin your journey home, the home within. My dear friend, living truly does not mean rebelling against the world, but ceasing to betray yourself. It is like a traveler casting off a heavy cloak to walk lightly in the breeze. When we no longer strain, every breath becomes rest. And once we dare to live truly, the next step is learning to hold peace even when storms rage. Because happiness does not shine only on sunny days. It also glows like a lighthouse standing firm in the night's tempest. Peace is not when the sky is always clear, the wind always gentle, the clouds always kind. True peace is when, even in the midst of storms, our heart remains unshaken. Some people can only feel at ease when everything around them is calm, but life never promises endless days of sunshine. To truly keep peace is to learn how to stand firm, even when fierce waves crash against the shore. Imagine a lighthouse on a headland. No matter how high the waves rise, they only strike the rocky base. The light above still shines steadfastly. We are the same. If our mind has deep roots, then the storms outside are only echoes. They cannot sweep away what lies at the core. Some people lose sleep from a single criticism, while others, surrounded by slander and gossip, still smile calmly. The difference is not in circumstance, but in whether the heart has an anchor. A boat with its anchor down does not drift. One set adrift will inevitably be carried off by waves. The Buddha once taught, "A mindful person is like a great tree. No wind can shake it." Peace does not mean avoiding life's turbulence, but lighting the lamp of awareness to walk through the darkness. Like someone walking in the rain, if they know to wear a cloak, the rain is no longer an obstacle. It simply becomes part of the journey. My friend, life's storms can be losses, illness, failures, or sudden upheavals. Yet precisely in such times we discover the strength of a peaceful heart. It is like an ancient tree in an open field. Though battered by rain and wind, its deep roots help it endure. And when the storm passes, the tree is green again, even stronger than before. If today you are passing through a storm, remember this: every storm has an end. What matters is whether you choose panic or composure while inside it. Peace does not make the storm disappear. It helps us see the path through it. When we keep peace, we see clearly. Tempests are not enemies, but teachers. Each time we survive a storm, our heart matures once more, like a stone polished smooth by the sea, shining brighter, stronger. And when we have learned to stand firm amid storms, something new arises naturally: love. For only when the heart is calm does it become wide enough to listen, warm enough to embrace others, like a river, welcoming every drop of rain. There is a kind of healing that comes not from medicine or advice, but from true listening. When someone is heard with the whole heart, they are like parched soil, touched by the first rain of the season, not loud, but life-giving. In daily life, we often speak more than we listen. Too often we listen only to reply, not to understand. And so our conversations flow like two streams running side by side, never merging. But when we truly listen, we become a wide river, able to embrace both clarity and murk. Once a child cried. The mother did not rush to scold, nor to soothe with words. She simply sat and held the child. After a while, the crying softened. What the child needed was not explanation, but an embrace warm enough to feel safe. Listening is the same. It does not always require words. Genuine presence is enough. The Buddha said, "When you listen with compassion, you give the greatest gift. That gift cannot be bought with money, yet it can save a breaking heart. Love is not only about giving things, but about giving understanding. My friend, remember a time when you were truly listened to? Did it not feel like a lamp had been refilled with oil glowing brightly again after fading? When someone looks into your eyes and listens without judgment, you realize you are not alone, and sometimes that alone is enough to make a heavy sorrow lighter. Listening to others is also a way of listening to ourselves, for if we cannot hear our own heart, how can we hear another fully? In stillness, we perceive the hidden voices inside our fears, our dreams, our love that has never been lost. Love and listening may not erase all suffering, but they help us walk through it together, more gently. Like two people under the rain, sharing one umbrella, both feel less cold, less alone. And when we know how to love and listen, our heart opens wide to recognize happiness already present in each moment. This will be the next step of our journey, learning to touch happiness in the morning sun, the scent of tea or bird song at the eaves. Happiness does not always arrive with great noise adorned in brilliance or fanfare. Often it hides in the tiniest of details, like a shy flower blooming at the roadside overlooked by those rushing past. To touch happiness is to slow down enough to notice those small miracles that have always been present. Imagine a morning when the sunlight filters gently through the curtains. You take a breath, and in that breath is already a gift, the proof that you are alive, that life is still moving through you. Or imagine a steaming cup of tea in your hands, warm, fragrant, simple. If you sip it with awareness, you will see happiness is already there. No need to go searching far away. The Buddha taught, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, but concentrate the mind on the present moment." For the present is the only real place where happiness exists. Yet people often ignore it, chasing tomorrow, regretting yesterday, while the moment in front of them silently withers. A young man once asked a Zen master, "When will I find happiness?" The master pointed to a wild chrysanthemum blooming by the roadside and said, "There it is." The young man frowned, "But that is just a flower." The master smiled. Happiness is the same. To some, it is just a flower. To others, it is the universe smiling. In that instant, the student realized happiness is not in things, but in the way we look at them. My friend tried to pause one day and truly look the sound of birds on the eaves, the laughter of a child, even the wrinkles at the corner of a loved one's eyes. Each of these is a treasure. Happiness is not something we pursue at the end of a long road. It is the road itself if we know how to walk gently. The tiredness of modern people often comes not from lacking happiness, but from failing to notice it. It is like someone searching everywhere for their glasses, not realizing they are already wearing them. When we stop, breathe, and look deeply, we see that happiness has always been close, patiently waiting for us to recognize it. When we are able to touch happiness in each moment, life stops being a chase. We no longer run after some distant horizon. We learn to enjoy each step. And when each step is peace, then the whole journey is already freedom. From this practice of mindfulness, a greater transformation begins, turning suffering itself into a teacher. Because only when we can look directly at pain without running away do we find the wisdom hidden inside it. Suffering, though bitter, is not merely a curse. It is a stern teacher, sometimes the only one capable of awakening us from our slumber. If happiness is like sunshine, then suffering is like rain. Without rain, the soil hardens and nothing grows. Likewise, without trials, our soul never ripens. The Buddha once said, "Suffering is the seed of awakening." At first, we resist this truth because pain feels unbearable. But later, when looking back, we realize that the deepest scars were also the very places where light entered. It is through suffering that we learn patience, empathy, and the ability to love more deeply. Imagine a lotus pond. The lotus cannot bloom in clear water. It needs mud, thick, dark, unpleasant. Yet from that mud emerges a flower so pure that no dirt can stain it. People, too, must sometimes sink into the mud of hardship before rising into clarity and compassion. A woman once shared, "If I had not endured illness, I would never have known the value of health. If I had not faced betrayal, I would not understand the loyalty of those who stayed." Her words were simple, but profound suffering had taught her to treasure what once seemed ordinary. In that way, pain transformed into wisdom. My friend, do not fear suffering. Instead, look at it as you would a blacksmith's fire. Without the heat, raw iron remains brittle. But through fire, it becomes a strong, shining blade. Our heart is the same. Without challenges, it remains fragile. With challenges, it becomes unbreakable. Of course, no one wishes for suffering, but when it arrives, running from it only prolongs the pain. Facing it directly, acknowledging it, breathing through it, this is how we discover its hidden gift. Like a traveler caught in the rain, instead of cursing the storm, he puts on a cloak and walks calmly. Soon, he realizes the rain is not his enemy. It is simply part of the journey. When we understand suffering in this way, compassion naturally arises. For if we ourselves have struggled, how can we not understand another's tears? This is why those who have suffered deeply often radiate a quiet kindness, because they know what it means to hurt, and they no longer wish to cause hurt. Thus, suffering paradoxically becomes the doorway to love. It is like a sharp stone that, once polished, becomes smooth enough to fit perfectly in the palm. The pain may not vanish completely, but it softens, turning into understanding. And when we transform suffering into wisdom, we no longer live as victims of life, but as co-creators with it. From here, a new horizon opens, learning not just to endure life, but to live it with meaning and direction, like a sailor steering by the stars. To live with meaning is to know clearly why we rise each morning. Without a sense of purpose, days blur together, like identical waves rising, falling, vanishing into the shore. But when we have direction, even the smallest step feels alive, like a seed pushing through soil toward sunlight. The Buddha once taught, "Your purpose is not to be someone else, but to awaken to who you truly are." Purpose is not always about grand achievements or noble titles. Often, it is simply the quiet knowing of what makes our heart light. For some, it is raising a child with love. For others, it is creating beauty or serving the community. Meaning does not need to be vast, it only needs to be true. Think of a candle in a dark room. Its flame may be small, but for someone lost in the night, that light is salvation. Our lives are the same. We need not illuminate the entire world. Sometimes shining in one corner is already enough. A young man once confessed, "I don't know what my life is for. I try to follow what others call success, but the more I chase, the emptier I feel." A teacher replied, "Do not ask what the world expects of you. Ask instead what makes your heart sing. What would you still do, even if no one applauded?" That is the seed of true meaning. My friend, perhaps your purpose is already whispering inside you, hidden beneath layers of fear, duty, and comparison. To hear it, you must dare to be still. In silence, you will recognize that spark, and once you honor it, life stops being a heavy burden. It becomes a pilgrimage. Living with meaning is not about walking a smooth path, but about walking with clarity. Even when storms come, you know why you endure them. Like a sailor guided by the North Star, though waves rise and winds howl, he never loses his way because he has a point of light to steer toward. And when we live with meaning, something greater awakens the desire to give, for the deepest purpose is rarely about ourselves alone. It is about contributing our small flame to the greater fire of humanity. Like drops of rain merging into a river, each act of giving expands the ocean of life. This leads us to another profound truth, that service to others is not a burden, but a path to freedom. Because when we live only for ourselves, our world is small and fragile. But when we live for others, our heart grows vast, unshaken by passing storms. Service to others is not about sacrifice that drains us, but about expansion that frees us. When we turn our heart outward, the walls of the ego dissolve, and suddenly the world feels larger, lighter. A single act of kindness can be like a window opened in a dark room. Fresh air rushes in, carrying the scent of life. The Buddha taught, if you light a lamp for someone, it will also brighten your path. To serve is not to lose, but to share. Each time we give, we are also receiving a smile, a connection, a sense that our existence matters beyond ourselves. The paradox of compassion is this: what seems like giving away is in truth the deepest way of being nourished. Think of a river. It does not drink its own water. It flows to nourish fields, forests, and villages. Yet precisely because it gives, it never runs dry. It is constantly renewed by springs, rains, and streams. A life lived in service is like such a river, ever flowing, ever renewed. I once heard a story of a doctor in a remote mountain village. He lived simply without fame or wealth. Yet when asked why he stayed, he smiled. Each time I heal someone's pain, I feel I am healing myself. His words carried the secret of service. In lifting others, we rise as well. My friend, when you feel weary or meaningless, try serving someone else. Offer a kind word, share a meal, or simply listen with your whole heart. You will find that in giving, the heart expands and weariness dissolves like mist under morning sun. Because in that moment, you step out of the prison of self and into the boundless freedom of connection. Yet service alone is not enough. To sustain compassion, we must also know how to return to ourselves to nourish our own roots. Just as a tree must draw water from the earth in order to give shade, we too must practice resting deeply. Without inner renewal, even love becomes depleted. This is where meditation enters, not as a ritual, but as the art of coming home. Sitting quietly, breathing deeply, we let the waves of thought settle until the water of the mind becomes clear. In that clarity, we find the strength to love again, to serve again, without exhaustion. Thus, service and self-care are not opposites, but two wings of the same bird. With one, we lift others. With the other, we sustain ourselves. And when both wings move in harmony, we can soar freely in the open sky of life. Meditation is not about escaping life, but about returning to it more fully. Many people imagine meditation as withdrawing into a cave, cutting off all noise. But true meditation can happen anywhere, while sipping tea, walking slowly, or simply noticing one's own breath. It is not about running from the world, but seeing it with fresh eyes. Picture a glass of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, the mud never settles. But if you place it down and wait in stillness, the water clears on its own. Our mind is the same. When we keep rushing, worrying, comparing, it stays clouded. But with a few minutes of stillness, clarity returns, and with clarity comes peace. The Buddha taught peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Meditation is the way back to that inner source. Each breath is like a gentle broom sweeping dust from the mirror of the heart. And when the mirror is clean, it reflects reality, as it is simple, beautiful enough. A friend once told me that in the middle of her busiest days, she would pause for just 3 breaths. At first, it seemed trivial, but over time she realized those breaths became anchors. They reminded her, I am here, I am alive. This moment is enough. That tiny practice transformed her sense of exhaustion into quiet strength. My friend, try it now. Close your eyes. Inhale gently. Feel the air filling your lungs. Then exhale slowly, letting the tension flow out. Repeat 3 times. You may be surprised even in less than a minute. The heart feels lighter, the body more at ease. Meditation is not complicated. It is simply learning to stop, to be present, to breathe with awareness. Through meditation, we no longer drown in thoughts of yesterday or fears of tomorrow. We return to the only place where life truly exists, the present. And in the present, there is always enough breath, enough space, enough peace. But meditation is not the end of the path. It is the foundation. From it grows mindfulness, bringing awareness into every action, eating, walking, speaking, even resting. When we live mindfully, each step becomes a gentle kiss upon the earth, each word a seed of peace sown into the world. And as mindfulness deepens, it leads us to the highest wisdom, the understanding of impermanence, that everything joy and sorrow, gain and loss, even life itself is but a passing wave. To see this truth clearly is to no longer cling, no longer fear. Instead, we learn to flow with life like a leaf, carried calmly by the river. Impermanence is a truth that at first frightens us, yet ultimately frees us. Everything changes. The seasons turn, youth fades, flowers bloom and fall. Even the longest night eventually yields to dawn. To resist this truth is to suffer. To embrace it is to awaken. The Buddha taught all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Impermanence is not a threat, but a reminder nothing lasts forever. Neither pain nor joy, neither success nor failure. Knowing this, we stop clinging. We stop despairing. We simply live deeply and fully in each fleeting moment. Think of a cherry blossom. Its beauty lies not in its endurance, but in its fragility. Precisely because it will fall tomorrow, we treasure it today. In the same way, love is precious, not because it is eternal, but because we know it may end. Each smile, each touch, each moment becomes sacred when seen through the lens of impermanence. A man once lamented to a Zen master, "Why do I always lose the people I love?" The master handed him a candle and said, "This flame is bright because it burns. If it never faded, you would never appreciate its light." The man realized then impermanence does not diminish love, it deepens it. My friend, impermanence teaches us 2 things. First, do not cling because nothing, no matter how tightly we grasp, can be held forever. Second, do not waste because each moment is unrepeatable. That is why to live mindfully is to live with gratitude, treasuring what is here and now. When we see impermanence, clearly fear begins to dissolve. Death is no longer a terrifying end, but part of the great rhythm of life. Like waves rising and falling, forms come and go, but the ocean remains. We too are waves of existence, temporary in shape, eternal in essence. To accept impermanence is not to be cold or indifferent, but to love more deeply. Because we know time is short, we hold each hand more gently. Speak each word more carefully. Smile more sincerely. Impermanence turns everyday life into a field of miracles. And when we embrace this truth, a final wisdom dawns: liberation. For to see that nothing can be held, we stop grasping. And when we stop grasping, the heart is free like the sky, boundless, unstained by passing clouds. Liberation is not a distant dream, nor a lofty state reserved for saints. It is simply the freedom of the heart when it no longer clings, no longer resists. To be liberated is not to escape life, but to walk within it lightly, like a bird gliding across the sky, no trace, no burden, yet fully alive. The Buddha taught, when you let go of grasping, you are free. That letting go is not about abandoning responsibilities or denying love. It is about loosening the invisible ropes we tie around ourselves, the rope of pride, of greed, of fear, of expectation. When these knots are undone, the heart can breathe again, wide and unbound. Think of a kite in the sky. As long as it is tethered by a tight string, it strains and jerks. But when the string is released at the right moment, it does not fall. It soars higher, dancing with the wind. Freedom is like that, not the loss of control, but the discovery of natural harmony. A traveler once asked a monk master, "What is freedom?" The monk pointed to the flowing river and replied, "See how it bends around rocks, falls into valleys, yet never resists. Because it flows, nothing can stop it. That is freedom." The traveler realized that to be free is not to control everything, but to flow with life without losing oneself. My friend, perhaps you have felt moments of liberation without even noticing, when you laughed wholeheartedly and forgot your worries, when you walked in the rain without minding if you were wet, when you forgave someone and felt your heart lighten instantly. Those are glimpses of freedom, the heart unburdened, the soul unshackled. Liberation does not require climbing mountains or renouncing the world. It begins right here in how we breathe, how we choose to let go, how we embrace each moment. Each time we release an expectation, a resentment, a fear, we take one step closer to freedom. And gradually, those steps form a path. And when the heart is free, love becomes pure, compassion becomes vast, and life becomes a dance rather than a struggle. We see that everything, joy, sorrow, gain, loss, is but waves on the surface. Beneath it all, the ocean of our true nature remains still, boundless, luminous. From here, we circle back to where we began the weariness of life. We now see that the true cure for exhaustion is not in sleeping more or earning more, but in learning to live lightly, with presence, with gratitude, with freedom. We began with weariness, the heaviness that seeps not from the body, but from the heart. Along this journey, we have seen its roots: fear, comparison, clinging, the endless masks we wear. And we have also discovered the medicine: mindfulness, gratitude, letting go, compassion, and freedom. Weariness is like carrying a stone in your pocket. At first it feels small, almost nothing. But day after day, as you add another stone, worry, jealousy, regret, expectation, the weight grows unbearable. Only when you decide to empty your pocket do you realize how light the path can be. The cure then is not to run faster or struggle harder, but to pause, to open the pocket, and to release. The Buddha once said, "The root of suffering is attachment." And so the end of weariness is not in adding more, but in subtracting. Subtract fear by trusting the present. Subtract comparison by honoring your own path. Subtract resentment by forgiving. Subtract expectation by embracing impermanence. Each subtraction is not a loss. It is the rediscovery of peace. My friend, life does not demand that you be perfect. It only invites you to be real. When you dare to live truly with your laughter and your tears, your strength and your tenderness, you will see that life itself is enough. Exhaustion fades when you stop acting in a play that was never yours to perform. Try this tomorrow morning before the day begins. Take 3 breaths with awareness. Whisper softly to yourself, "This moment is enough. I am enough." Then rise and step into the day, not as someone striving to prove, but as someone simply living. Happiness, peace, freedom. These are not distant treasures waiting at the end of a long road. They are here, hidden in the very fabric of this moment. You need not chase them. You only need to awaken to them. And so the journey returns to where it started, the heart. For when the heart is light, no road is too long. When the heart is free, no storm is too fierce. And when the heart is at peace, even a single breath becomes a miracle. Let us end with a gentle reminder. Your life is not a burden to be endured, but a gift to be cherished. Live lightly, live deeply, and you will see peace has always been with you, waiting patiently within.